Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Botchies Bites. We're gonna have another cooking demo today. We're gonna do some pork tenderloin. I'm gonna show you how to clean it and cook it. Gonna do some roasted potatoes, some green beans, and some mushroom gravy. Real easy, real simple meal for a good family weeknight kind of meal. So let's go. All right. So before we begin, a couple of things. You want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. We're going to do the pork and the potatoes at 400 degrees, so I kind of organized this dish to be like that. It's kind of all the ingredients are going to kind of work together. Also, I've never talked about this before, but it's so important, is to have wet paper towels under your cutting board. It keeps it from sliding while you're cutting. It's just safety. No matter what you do, it's stable, so it's just better that way. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the potatoes. For the smaller potatoes, we're going to quarter them. And then for the larger potatoes, we're going to cut them into thirds. Okay, so we have the potatoes cut. We're going to start adding our ingredients. First thing we're going to need about 2 tablespoons of canola oil, or whatever oil you have. Try not to use olive oil because it heats up faster, smokes a little. At hotter temperatures, it tends to smoke. So I have about a tablespoon of dried rosemary, about a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flake, about a tablespoon of garlic powder, and then about a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. You can use whatever mustard you want. Dijon just seems to work the best. So we're going to give that a good mix. All right, so now this is going to go in the oven for 45 minutes. So that's it. That you just put the ingredients on it, give it a good toss, mix the ingredients really well. Like I said, it goes in the oven for 45 minutes. So that gives us time, while we're waiting for the potatoes to cook, that gives us time to clean the pork, to dress the pork, to clean the green beans, and to start prepping the gravy. So next we're going to move on to the pork. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to clean a pork tenderloin, which is very important because if you can see right here, there's this white part. It's called silver skin. When it cooks, it becomes really chewy and basically inedible. So we're going to very carefully take that off. Now, normally, I would use what I call it's a fillet knife, a boning knife. So I'm going to show you how to do it with that, but you probably don't have one, so I'm going to show you how to do the other one with a paring knife, just a standard paring knife, and as long as it's sharp, it'll do exactly what you need. So first of all, we're going to get all of this excess fat. So we can expose this silver skin. And all I'm doing, so I'm sliding my knife under the fat, and I'm just lifting the edge a little bit so that it only gets the fat and we don't get any meat. So you just pull it through and you keep the front edge, the edge of the knife, you keep it up. So it only gets what you're trying to get and it doesn't get any of the meat. So you're just going to want to get under that silver skin and again, turn the end of that knife up so that it's not getting the meat. Then you just take it, hold it up like this. Gently run your knife along it. Any excess pieces of fat, you want to trim those off. It's a little tiny piece of silver skin right here. And then there's another little one right here. So as easy as that. Flip it over, make sure you got it all. That's good. You can, if you want to, you can clean. There's a little flap here. So for the purpose of this, I'll take it off. So you're not going to use that piece. You want to keep it kind of even. You can take off any of these little pieces of fat that you want. It's up to you. Fat's good. Fat will melt into flavor. So, as you see, it's just a pork tenderloin now. All that silver skin is gone. Now this one has got a lot more. So this one will be a little different. As you can see, the flap on this one is huge. There's an excess piece right here we can take off. And all of this excess fat needs to come off. So we're going to do the same thing we just did. keeping that edge of the blade up so that you're only getting silver skin and not the meat. And then again, get that fat off of there, expose that silver skin. I'm going to take a little piece off here, keep it nice and even. And if you look, sometimes the silver skin goes underneath that flap that I was talking about, which makes it hard to get to. So you might have to cut off a little bit of that flap anyway. Let's get that last big piece of silver skin. This is going to take some practice, so don't get frustrated if you can't do it right the first time. It's a very delicate step, so don't get frustrated. It's just do your best. Get as much off as you can. There's a little piece right here. And then I have a little bit of blood right there that we just want to get rid of. Same concept as the silver skin. Just run your knife through with the edge up and it just takes it off and leaves all the meat. Right now I'm just kind of pruning it to make it a little more even. It's a little uneven. And it's going to cook a little unevenly if you don't have it that way. I'm just going to take a little bit off of here. Round out that edge. There you go. Nice and clean. Okay, now that it's nice and clean, we're going to season it before we get it in the pan. Very important step. Salt and pepper. Always salt and pepper. So we're just going to liberally season it. We're only going to use salt and pepper because any of the flavor that we want to impart into this pork, we're going to put in the gravy. We just want to cook the pork naturally. Like I said, just salt and pepper. And any of the flavor that we're going to add with the gravy. Don't be afraid to season it. I know a lot of people think they're over seasoning things, but the truth is you're really not. Don't be afraid to season it. And there we go, nice and peppery, nice and salty. All right, I got my pan nice and hot. I'm using a cast iron pan, but you don't have to. I'm using it because I like the sear on a cast iron, but you don't have to. You don't have to use a cast iron pan. Whatever pan you have that's big enough to fit it. You don't have to do both of these either. I'm only doing both because I cleaned them. Typically, you'd probably only do one. So let's get these in the pan. Get that nice sizzle. So we're just searing it. We're going to finish it in the oven. So we want a nice color on it. So we're just going to let them sit for a couple of minutes. We're going to leave them alone. We're not going to touch them. And we're going to get a nice brown color on it, and then we're going to put it right in the oven. Alright, so we browned that last side a little bit, but we don't have to brown it all the way because we're going to put it in the oven and it'll keep cooking, it'll keep browning underneath. So we're going to put it in the 400-degree oven right now, and we're going to check it in about 20 minutes. Alright, so we're going to clean the green beans, which basically boils down to, if you look, there's a little stem on the end. Right here, you can see it, it's just a hard stem, that's where it's connected. We're literally just going to snap it off, and that's it. Alright, there you go, we have all our green beans cleaned. Alright, now we're gonna prep the mushrooms for the gravy. This is real simple. We're gonna cut them real small. We're gonna take the stems out. We're gonna cut them in half. And then we're just gonna slice them fairly thin. So you want about that thickness. A little thick. It's gonna cook down a little bit. We're only gonna do a couple. We don't need a lot because it's just for gravy. And there's our mushrooms prepped. That's it. All right, it's been 20 minutes, so let's pull out that pork. And we're gonna temp it using the thermometer. Always be as accurate as possible. So we want about 145, and we're there. So that's perfect. So now we're gonna let this rest, and we're gonna work on everything else. So the pork is resting. The potatoes are out of the oven, they're cooling. So we're gonna do the green beans and the gravy at the same time. The green beans are really easy, so don't get don't feel like you're gonna get overwhelmed trying to do both things at the same time. You're gonna spend most of your attention on the gravy. The green beans, if you've seen any of my former podcasts, I did asparagus the same way. We're gonna steam it in the pan and then finish it with some butter. So don't worry about the green beans. Are pretty much just throw them in there, cover it, and then we're gonna go from there. We're gonna put a little bit of oil in the gravy pan, a little bit of oil in the green bean pan. We're gonna let that heat up a little bit. Like I said before, you can tell when the oil is ready when you can look and you can see it moving in the pan. It gets little waves, little riplets. So you give it a second to heat up. And into this one, we're gonna put our mushrooms. Gonna give them a shake. You can stir it. I'm so used to flipping. So feel free to stir. I'm gonna put the green beans in. Gonna give those a stir. Okay, now to the mushrooms, we're gonna add about 2 tablespoons of butter, because this is the base of our gravy right here. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper. We're not going to season the green beans because we're going to steam them. And it'll just reduce all of that salt and pepper in there. So we're going to add some water to that, and we're going to cover it right away. Now the green beans, that's pretty much all you have to do to them until all the water dissipates. So once all the water's gone, we'll finish them. Right now we want to focus on the gravy. We want to melt all that butter and get those mushrooms nice and sauteed. And then to that, we're going to add a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flake, which I use in just about every dish. So I've talked before about how everything I cook is gluten-free because my wife is gluten-free. So this gravy is actually going to be gluten-free. We're going to use a gluten-free flour called Cup for Cup. It's so far the best flour I can find on the market that's gluten-free. It works a lot like regular AP flour. Okay, so those are good. So we're going to add a tablespoon of garlic powder, a tablespoon of sage, dried sage, because pork and sage go really well together. So we're going to stir those up. We're down to about half of that water has been siphoned off. So the green beans are almost ready. The gravy smells delicious. That mushroom smell is amazing. All right, so we're just waiting on the water to dissipate in the green beans. That gives us time we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of that gluten-free flour, or if you're not doing gluten-free, AP flour is fine. We're gonna whisk it. This is creating what we call a roux in the bottom. We want that flour to cook off a little bit so it doesn't taste like flour. Now you can the smell of that garlic starting to come out. You don't want to cook it down too much, so I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. I'm going to give these a little shake so that they don't stick to the pan. Okay, now I have 2 cups of chicken stock. I'm going to add about 3/4 of it, and we're going to whisk. And that chicken stock is going to take that roux and make it into gravy. And when you're first doing it, you want it to be a little watery because it's going to reduce a little bit, and you don't want to reduce it so that it turns into a thick mess. So I'm going to turn that heat back up just a little. Shake the pan, get everything evenly distributed. All right, and I can hear that it's starting to sizzle in the pan with the green beans. See, if you see that texture, that consistency, that's what you want. I'm gonna add a tiny bit more stock, because that's the final product that we want. So we want to loosen it up just a little bit. That's why I said 2 cups, but I didn't use it all. It's kind of hit or miss. You use the amount of stock that's comparable to the texture that you want. You don't want it too thick. So that's good. We're going to shut that off. I'm going to take the cover off the green beans. We're going to hit that with a tablespoon of butter, salt, pepper. I'm going to shake it until the butter melts. And there we go. All right, so now we're going to plate. First, we're going to slice this pork. I tend to slice all my meat on a cutting board, a wooden cutting board with a groove. The groove catches all the juices. If you do it on a flat cutting board, the juices are going to go everywhere. If you don't have one, I recommend getting one. Anywhere, just you need that channel to catch the juices. Otherwise, it's going to make your whole kitchen a mess. So do yourself a favor. If you cook a lot of meat, get yourself a wooden cutting board with the channel in there for the juices. So we're just going to cut this pork into 4 pieces. Kind of cut it at an angle so that it looks like this. And we got a nice medium in there. So we're going to take this, we're going to plate it. Just put them anywhere you want. They don't have to be perfect. It just presentation. It's just pretty. You know what I mean? So we're going to add some potatoes to that. Some of these nice roasted potatoes, which the mustard really goes well with this pork. We're going to take our mushroom gravy. We're going to put it right over that pork. Don't be shy. That flavor is going to be great. Then we're going to finish it off with our green beans. There you have it. Pork tenderloin with roasted potatoes and green beans.